Johnny Gargano reveals scrapped NXT plans during his first Twitch stream. The reason for an absent AEW star has been revealed, and is a former WWE Champion making an in-ring return for NXT 2.0. Johnny Gargano took to Twitch for the very first time yesterday following NXT. He knows how to schedule that bad boy. And he knows as well the wrestling world and all of the sheets, clean and otherwise, were checking out the stream to see what came of it. And a few notable things that were said. He loves Power Rangers. He's a big fan.
As should everyone.
Certain
seasons. Let's just get that.
They go a little bit off the piece on some of them, don't they? To be
Massively.
fair. What's the name of the sword that the Green Ranger plays to summon dragons?
I can't even. Is it the dragon sword? The dragon flute?
Dragon flute!
I just like the fighting and the big machines, the Zords.
Anyway, he's got one of them that plays the Power Rangers theme. He also loves to watch Nicktoons before bed. He's a big fan of the classic cartoons from Nickelodeon, and again, rightly so.
Season 1 to 3 of SpongeBob, some of the best animation out there.
It is beautiful, isn't it, to be fair? And there were some other wrestling-related things in there too, and this was really fun. So, you remember back last year, around between Halloween Havoc and War Games in NXT, we had the masked Scream assailant in the Scream mask. According to Johnny Gargano on his Twitch stream last night, there was conversations that the big reveal wasn't going to be Austin Theory, but it was going to be David Arquette. No, this is good. This ticks a lot of potential boxes. Former world champion in the Dub C Dub.
Yeah.
Relatively relevant once more because he did the documentary about his return to wrestling.
Of course, yeah.
And of course, it's Scream, innit? It's Scream.
Yeah,
mask.
so he's forever linked to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'd be
I'd
fun.
rather him come in and have like an exploding light tube match or something. Just demand it of the company, and they're like, "Well, it's David Arquette, pal."
He does love a death match. Does our boy David Arquette? He's giving back to the fans in a big way with that one. So you're not too sold on this, judging by the noises that you made.
No, you know, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. David Arquette is somebody who, was ousted unceremoniously from the world of wrestling by its fans for something that ultimately it turned out he wasn't even really that on board with. And so having him make his big, glorious return to wrestling was such a big moment, wasn't it? And it felt so important that I'm very surprised WWE didn't manage to lock him down. Because I just feel like, with the history, WWE owning WCW's tape library, they could maybe build to something involving him. And as we've seen, celebrity matches aren't always that bad. If you look at Bad Bunny, when somebody's willing and is a fan of wrestling, but is willing to go through the training like David Arquette has, and really, put the work in. And I'm just shocked it didn't happen more than anything.
It would have been fun. I think it would have been fun, but hey, be that as it may. Johnny Gargano also revealed on his Twitch stream that the plan is, going forward, just to lay low for a little bit. Like, he's got nowhere he needs to be. He wants to focus on being a dad. That was very much a real comment he made last week. And the plan is, he says, I'm going to lie low for the next few months. And from there, once the baby arrives, once, he gets being underway as being a dad and he gets that itch to do wrestling again, I think the world is his oyster.
I thought you were going to just be really horrible there. And from there, when the baby arrives and it's crying all the time, he'll just want to go wrestle. That's what I thought you were going to say.
There's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that, from friends of mine who have had kids. There is the deep joy of the arrival of the child and soaking in the euphoria of being a dad and bringing life into the world. And then all of a sudden, the reality of my desk isn't that bad. It's quiet at least. Can sleep underneath it. I know. More on Johnny Gargano as we get it. I liked his Twitch stream. I thought he was good fun. Over to AEW, we're going to double back to NXT in just a moment. But for AEW, there's been quite a few members of the Hardy family on and off television. Fightful Select say that as well as the Butcher suffering a biceps injury, Mark Quinn from Private Party, who hasn't wrestled since October the 6th, has an undisclosed injury. And that's why we haven't seen him around as of late. He's been recovering from that. And it kind of feels like a lot of momentum has been lost for Private Party because of that.
It's not like hit a wall. It's not quite fully, stopped dead on the floor. It's just kind of chugging along, and that's not really Private Party style. So hopefully once he's back at full strength, ready to go, we're going to see Private Party reestablish why they're one of the best tag teams out there. And hopefully, once everybody's back, HFO can keep their ball rolling, I guess. And
what are your thoughts on HFO as a thing?
I'm not entirely sold on it, but at the same time, I'm trying to be a more open-minded wrestling fan. I'm trying to go into it and just be like, well, surprise me. I want twists and turns. I want, just take me on the ride. So we've seen that Money Matt can work before, and I don't think it's not working, but I feel that it's going to take just a little bit more maybe for me to like maybe just that kind of central core storyline to really get me to buy into it a bit more. What about you?
I'm very underwhelmed by the whole thing. I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, I love all the parties involved in it. I think they're all solid performers in their own right. I don't really buy. I think because when there's so many other factions in AEW, I feel like
it makes the faction meaningless, doesn't it? Like the idea of the faction, not that faction in particular, but it's sort of, there's something special to be said about a couple of factions. Like, we had the NWO. Yes, it grew out of control. DX, yes, it kind of grew out of control. But I don't know, having a couple of factions and then a lot of good tag teams, I always preferred. But at the same time, faction warfare can always be fun if everybody's kind of got something going on. And also, the idea of the faction means that even if people aren't being scheduled in matches, if they're a member of the team, they can either be, a new rookie learning as they go, or they can be somebody who might be, maybe not able to wrestle as much and therefore get some more TV time without having to go through the physicality of it.
I think that there's some valid points there. I think that I like them all. I like all the parts, all the moving parts of HFO. I just need
HFO. That one thing that I can get a good bite of, and then I'll be ready to go with it.
We've just come out of battles of the factions on the NXT side of things. We've just had War Games, and off the back of that, we're seeing some rivalry still bubbling over. We saw Dakota Kai and Cora Jade have a match last night that was interrupted by Raquel Gonzalez. This sets up a street fight for next week between Gonzalez and Dakota Kai to level off that rivalry.
Nice.
Looking forward to it?
Yeah, I'd like to see how it's going to go down. I feel like Dakota Kai kind of needs to reestablish that dominant side, and maybe this is the thing that can do it. I don't know, like how are you feeling going into it?
Be fine, be a fun match. They'll have a lovely time. I am more intrigued from last night about potentially a former champion within WWE having one more match. Maybe, possibly.
Possibly.
What's the crack here, Sam?
Quite possibly. So, last night we had Harland, you know Harland. We can't use his old name anymore. Mr. Budra with just, the shaved down head and the tattoos and he's evil. He was confronted by multiple NXT trainers for his brutal post-match assault on Guru Raj. And this led to Harland throwing the Brian Kendrick, down a flight of stairs. Now, that's just kind of like a throwaway thing that you'd usually, when you used to see Dean Malenko come running out and he gets shoved over, or, you'd see that sort of thing all the time. But you wouldn't always see an update on it. So WWE's Twitter account showed footage later of Kendrick in a neck brace, and he was being tended to. So this could mean that this was either just like, just show that so, we can establish how dominant he is. Look, he threw him down a flight of stairs. But then at the same time, if they're giving time to it, and, we know Brian Kendrick can most likely still very much go, because he could go right up until very, very recently. I wouldn't be against it. We had a similar thing with, I guess, Drake Maverick in 205 Live with Mike Bennett just, putting his hands on him and eventually going too far. And that was like, but I think, yeah, maybe we could see Kendrick in kind of a David versus Goliath battle, but at the same time, Kendrick's going to have to get murdered saying that.
But I think that's kind of the point. I think that's it's a potentially a big win for Harland if they do it that way.
Is it a give back match?
Kind of, yeah. And the one thing that I think that NXT has still got some guys who've been around for a while who can control the ebb and the flow of matches for people who are still relatively new to the scene. But there isn't a massive depth of sort of veteran talent amongst that lot. You've got your Pete Dunnes, your Tommaso Ciampas, and obviously with Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano away, that's two less. Brian Kendrick coming in and working a short program with someone like Harland, with Joe Gacy involved as well, who's got his own history in CZW and doing Cultaholic news. I think that having him in, I think, would be an interesting one. I'd like to see Brian Kendrick come back, even if it is, as you say, just to get murdered. Keep an eye on that one. More news as we get it throughout the day at cultaholic.com. Stay safe. I love you. Bye.